On that very morning, we were at a doctor's office because I had an appointment on that morning. We got there too early. I was already cramping. We were waiting for the doctors to get there. They weren't there yet. The pain went from 4, 5 to 8, 9, 10 intensity in such a short period of time. I was not expecting that. I was handling the cramping at first. We were waiting outside of the doctor's office. There was this hall, and I started walking back and forth, and I really didn't know what to do with myself because the pain was so bad. I remember there was this bathroom. It was a female bathroom, and I was sitting on the toilet even though I didn't have to go in the bathroom. But this movement like this, I was doing this and crying out to Jesus, like, Lord, help me. And Jeremiah, he was outside of the bathroom. He was holding the door. He couldn't go in because there were like multiple toilets there. He was so worried about me. I told him to not call anyone. I told him to not tell anyone that was happening. Even his parents, I said, don't call no one. And I want to be honest why I said that. It's part of what I learned. Just before I continue sharing this, I'm Josani. I'm a theology student. I love Jesus. This video isn't just me sharing my story with you. It is me telling you that there is hope and healing for your story too. Going back to the day and everything that was happening, I'm gonna tell you guys all of that. But I see that I was in deep denial. I did not want to believe that was happening. I don't know if that happens to you sometimes, where you try to protect yourself, denying that situation is happening. I feel like for me, it only clicked when I saw the blood on the bed. I was laying on the bed of the hospital, and the amount of blood that came out of me was shocking. It was the first time that I thought, I lost my baby. And it was so clear that was happening, but I couldn't really believe or wanted to believe that was happening. And that hit me on that moment. I start crying, but like wailing, And Jeremiah, he was sitting right next to me. After that happened, I thought, what did I do wrong? What did I eat wrong? Did I push myself too much? Those were the questions. I was feeling so guilty and having all those thoughts like, what did I do to lose my baby? And maybe you're feeling this guilt right now. Maybe you didn't lose your baby, or you did, but you lost someone that you loved, or you lost something that you loved. And you're asking yourself, what did I do wrong? And I want to tell you that right now, you did not do anything wrong. Sometimes we need to even search a little bit, because you're gonna find out that there are thousands of people out there going through the same thing that you are going through. And this guilty a lot of times comes from a place of thinking that this is only happening with us. So if you had a miscarriage, especially if it was your first pregnancy, I want to read this for you. First time miscarriage, doctors consider it a random event caused by chromosomal abnormalities. Around 70% of first trimester miscarriages are caused by random genetic in the embryo. It's usually not related to anything that the mom did or didn't do. Another thought that kept coming to my mind was, it might sound really stupid for you, but it was that what I was going through was spiritual. I called my mom when everything happened, and she told me, oh, I have had a miscarriage too. And then I talked to my sister. She told me, Josani, I had a miscarriage too, and I didn't know any of that. And that thought that, am I suffering the consequence of a generational curse? That was my thought. There was one book that I read a while ago, guys, and it helped me so much to realize that was the devil trying to bring condemnation, guilty in my mind again. The book is from Derek Prince and it's called Blessings and Curses. I have read a few books of this author. I love him because he was kind of the pioneer for this deliverance and curses and all this topic for Christians. His story is really amazing, how he had his first deliverance being a pastor. It's pretty cool. But I read this book, and with his guidance, you really break every curse in your bloodline. I will see if I find the cover for the book and I will leave it here. And also I will find the link to buy it on Amazon, and I'm gonna leave it here in the description. But if you have gone through any type of loss, you know that the day of the event, the day that everything happened, is just the beginning of the pain, because we are about to be hit after that day with an avalanche, emotionally, physically, and sometimes even financially. And this physical part was hard for me because I set these nonsense expectations, like out of the world, that in a week or so life will just go back again to normal. And that's why I'm doing this video here, because we are not prepared. Like, people don't talk enough about this, how it's hard after the miscarriage. I remember my pastor told me, you didn't have a miscarriage, you are miscarrying. And that's true. It took me months to start getting better. And I just want to open a parenthesis here, because I say that physical was harder. It's because emotionally the Lord really comforted Jeremiah and I. On the day that everything happened, we went back home, we got some groceries, we cooked, and that was this time of the day. We were kind of taking turns when it comes to, sometimes I would cry, sometimes he would cry. Like, you know, what hit me wouldn't hit him. But then at some point, we start crying together, like really grieving together. And it was really special, because then we were worshiping together. And then after that, we took a time, we were like, what are we gonna do? And we paint. And the painting thing was so special. Hope I have some videos or picture here. I gave it to him as a gift for Valentine's Day, 3 months earlier. Now, didn't we know that we would pick that day to paint on the day that happened? But the fun fact is that we made the baby on Valentine's Day. That was the day that, was my ovulation. It was just special how, like, we got this full cycle. We used the painting on the day that everything happened. So we had actually a great day on that day. And the reason was because the Lord spoke with me. When I was having all those questions in my mind, I understood that verse that says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and peace." And I was like, everything that God does to us and allows to happen to us is for our good. It is not for harming us. And that really transformed the way that I saw the whole situation. I felt so protected by the Lord. As God, as much as this is hard, somehow this is for my good, and I trust you so deep. And I think this is going to speak to someone here that just trusts that God knows everything and the best is yet to come. But after days went by, of course, things did not get better. It was getting worse and harder. There was this day at night that I was in bed, and I start cramping again after like 2 or 3 weeks that I had the miscarriage, and I was still bleeding, guys, and it was so hard for me. I felt so powerless. I was really like mad at the situation, like angry at the situation of why my body wasn't catching up my emotions, because I was doing good emotionally. I wasn't feeling like this grief or this sadness for everything that happened anymore, but my body was so slow recovering, and there was a reason for that. The Lord wanted to tell me something. Well, remember when I said that when I was suffering pain in that hospital, I told Jeremiah to not call anyone, to not tell anyone? That happened again. I went to the doctor and they found out that I had a rupture of something. I forgot the name right now. That's why I was still cramping, that's why I was still bleeding, and I had to get this ultrasound, and it was just this whole thing that happened. It really turned me off. It affected my relationship with my husband. I don't know if you went through this, but you can't connect with your husband because you're not feeling good. You have a bunch of question marks in your mind why you're going through that. And I have friends that they went through like depression after the miscarriage, and it really affects your marriage, the way that you see yourself. And I'm here to tell you that is hope, because what I've been living now is just amazing. And I haven't had my baby yet, but I want to tell you what the Lord has for you. It's way bigger than this whole situation that you can be going through right now. For me, was hard because, again, I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to share with people how hard that post miscarriage was for me. And I isolated myself emotionally. I wanna, every day I would wake up believing that whole thing would be over, and it wasn't. Thank God, He loves me so much that He wanted to bring me to deeper healing. Here I am again going through the same thing, denial. I was denying that I was suffering physically. I was denying that it was being hard for me, the recovering. And people would ask me, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. And there was this day, I was at work. I went to the bathroom. When I took my pants off and I looked, it was a lot of blood. And I was like, oh my gosh, what I'm gonna do? I was wearing a black pants. So I tried to wash it, and I made it seem that nothing happened. And of course, most of you don't know, I used to work with my mother-in-law. She's amazing. She's a blessing in my life. It was such a great time. I didn't tell her anything. Again, I was not ready to share my pain. So the day after, I go to work and I'm wearing a pink pants this day, so it's not black anymore. And that happened again. And guys, it was not a little bit of blood, it was a lot of blood. I looked and I'm desperate. I'm trying to clean it. When I try to clean, it gets more dirty. Like, it was so disgusting. And I felt so powerless in that moment. I was like, what I'm gonna do? I'm at work and I have all this blood in me. And for some of you, it would be so easy, like, ask help. The day before, I could pretend that nothing happened because I was wearing black, but today I'm wearing pink, light pink pants. It was scrubs because I work in the medical field. I had no other option but asking help. So I actually called my mother-in-law. She was right outside, but I called them like, hey, can you come here? And she came and she gave me that look of mercy. I felt so much love through her eyes, and she's like, hey, don't worry, get my sweater, put it around your waist and go home. Dang, that was so good. So I went home, and on the way home, and I was like just crying and like, why this is happening? Why am I still bleeding? It's almost a month that I had this miscarriage. It wasn't my period, guys. It was not. On that way, God spoke with me. he was like, you need to be free of this unholy independence. I had like a movie going back in my mind how many times I went through situations that was miserable, through situations that I had so much fear, and I wouldn't call anyone. I would just go through things, hard stuff, guys, I went through my life. And I would not ask for, it's not a pride thing for not asking for help, but I had this belief, and God showed me that people would judge me when I am suffering. Maybe you can relate to that, and you are hurting yourself. I was hurting myself, not asking for help, not being open to have people loving on me when I need it, and going through situations by myself, pressing my pain, like, shut up, don't cry, just keep going. That's what I was doing to myself. I was hurting myself. It was an ungodly independence. That denial was not from I am strong. That denial of the situations, that thing about like, I'm gonna pretend that nothing's happening, didn't come from a wise perspective. It came from trying to put a shield in my emotions. And the Lord showed that to me, and it was the most amazing thing. It was hard when he did, but I called my pastor. Actually, she called me. It was pretty crazy. She called me when I was going through all of that. I was home like changing, and she called me, and I was like, I gotta answer that. It gotta be God, And she came and she prayed with me. If you can identify with this, you don't need to live with that. That is healing. That is healing, because that was for me. Even this week, I went through something super hard, and I called someone. I felt so proud of myself, because I wouldn't have done that if it was before. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. I was stopping myself to have like really good friends that are like brothers and sisters, friends that will be with me in the hard times. That is a reason for every pain that we go through, and there is always a purpose in things that we go through. And I will leave this video here. It talks about how to have joy in all circumstances, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.